Hey everyone, today I have got your top worst films of 2015 list. I'll just tell you it's gonna be a lot because I've got 20 films on my list, including 4 honorable mentions. It wasn't actually hard to say what was on my worst list because, let's face it, there were a lot of terrible movies this year and I was really not expecting that in 2015. Hopefully next year will be better. So without any further ado, I'm going to tell you what my honorable mentions are. First up, it is for The Loft. It kind of almost feels like a guilty pleasure to me, but I still didn't really like what was going on in the movie, even though I did kind of like looking at some of the cast members in this movie, but the storyline just totally blindsided me and turned me off completely. It's kind of not that great of a film, and I'm sure that's why it's now on Netflix, so you guys can watch that. The next on my list is Jupiter Ascending, which I'm pretty sure is on a lot of other people's lists as well for their worst, because this movie is by the Wachowskis, and yes, they made The Matrix, but this movie totally, is nothing like The Matrix. Not that it was supposed to be, but it's got Mila Kunis and Channing Tatum trying to save her, and it's just like a crazy film that, honestly, I don't even remember what happens. It's just a lot of sci-fi action stuff that I'm like, we're always gonna see a movie like that. So this movie really wasn't anything special. Another movie that I'd like to mention is Crimson Peak, which is directed by Guillermo del Toro, and I mean, he's the guy that made Pan's Labyrinth, Hellboy, and this movie, it totally looked like it was going to be a complete horror film. There were some scary parts, but it really didn't turn out to be as scary. It was more like a dark romantic movie that had Tom Hiddleston in it and hitting on Alice in Wonderland. I'm just saying. It's kind of a disappointment. Maybe I would still see it, but I feel like I just will feel the same way about the film no matter how many times I check it out. The last film on my list, it is for Eli Roth's The Green Inferno, which I'm surprised that I gave it the score that it did. I would have totally rated it lower, but just remember that everything on this list, it doesn't matter what I rated it, I'm putting it where I'm putting it, number-wise. So this movie, I was really shocked and grossed out by this film, and I'm surprised that I didn't just stop watching it altogether. With all that in mind, let's go straight to my list with number 20 with The Boy Next Door, which is that movie starring J-Lo and that Ryan Gosling guy who's in every movie nowadays as this pretty boy, but I wouldn't be surprised because all he does in this movie is show off his abs and probably try to bang J-Lo, and I'm glad I don't remember half the stuff that happened in this movie because it was just not that great. I am really glad that I hate it still, so I'm definitely not going to check out this movie ever again. Number 19 has to be for Unfriended, which is a movie that I also consider to be a guilty pleasure, considering I have seen this movie 4 times, and I think it does have some interesting elements to it, but I feel like the overall concept of this movie was just not handled well, which is probably why I didn't really like it in the end. Number 18 is going to The Gallows, which is a movie that I also found to be really disappointing. I wasn't at first surprised that it wasn't going to be as scary as it looked like it was going to be, so I was really disappointed by it, and the ending, not going to spoil anything, but it sucked. Number 17, it is for Trainwreck, which is that Amy Schumer comedy that has her banging John Cena at one point in this movie, and then she goes off with Bill Hader, and I'm thinking, you know what, I do not like her comedy as much, and I didn't really like this movie whatsoever. I just found it to be really boring and horrendous, and it's even got LeBron James in it, so I mean, if you're a basketball fan, I guess you might like this, but I just did not. Number 16 is for Aloha, which is a Cameron Crowe film that I thought was actually going to be pretty decent considering he made Jerry Maguire, and I love that movie. This movie was just absolutely terrible. It's got Bradley Cooper with a not-so-Asian Emma Stone, and they're all in Hawaii, and Rachel McAdams comes in somewhere, and it's just it was a really disappointing film, and I definitely will not be seeing that ever again. For my number 15, it is for Mordecai, which is that Johnny Depp movie that I really did not like. I'm glad at least he actually stepped up his career with Black Mass. This movie was just another pathetic excuse for a comedy. I am hoping that I never see another comedy from him again, especially if he goes all over the top with his characters once again. For number 14, it is for Get Hard, and this is a movie where I should be wearing my pimp chain, but I won't because I'm not Will Ferrell about to go to prison and has to be coached by Kevin Hart. This movie was maybe at times funny, but I really think that overall this movie was not that funny of a film and just really got on my nerves. Another movie that I feel like got on my nerves is number 13, The Perfect Guy, and this is a movie that I had actually been putting off seeing for a while, but I did eventually see it. And yes, I wanted to see it just because Michael Ealy was in this movie, and of course he had to be the perfect guy to be a crazed maniac stalker. And that's like the main reason why I didn't enjoy this movie in the end. For my number 12, it is for Pan, which is a movie that I really feel like almost could have ruined Hugh Jackman's career if he wasn't still such a great actor in other movies that he's soon to be doing. I really didn't like this version of Peter Pan, and I actually enjoyed watching other versions like that Jeremy Sumpter one or even the Disney cartoon. This one, I wish that they just never made this, or if they did, they should have made it right. For my number 11, it is for By the Sea, which stars Brad and Angelina Jolie Pitt in this movie where I really feel like it puts their relationship to shame since Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And I just couldn't stand this movie. I was really bored to tears and I almost fell asleep watching this movie. So I definitely would never recommend seeing this movie, even if you like these two as actors. For my number 10, it is for Gem and the Holograms, which I did not like because I didn't even see the cartoon, and this movie, also starring Ryan Gosling, really didn't appeal to me. It didn't get to me at all, and didn't like the whole appeal of this film from start to finish. For my number 9, of course, this is a movie that has been on a lot of people's minds, and it is for Fantastic Four, and I just didn't really like this movie. There was at least maybe one thing that I enjoyed watching this movie for, but overall, I would say that this movie was just not that great. I'm not a huge fan of the Fantastic Four in general, and I feel like they did a really poor job at directing this film. For my number 8, it is for Paul Blart Mall Cop 2. You know, I don't even remember what happened in the first Mall Cop movie, and this movie was just a really huge disappointment. I didn't enjoy watching Kevin James riding around in his little moped or whatever you call those things, and just doing whatever he does. This movie was just flat out stupid, and I really didn't care about this movie in the end. For my number 7 on the list, it is for Pixels, and this is a movie that I thought I would actually like despite who was cast in this movie, like Adam Sandler and Kevin James, other people. I feel like this movie could have had potential to really do well, and even though I did like seeing some of those video game characters come to life, the whole concept of this movie was just really stupid, and I just could not stand some of this comedy that was going on in this movie. For my number 6, it is for Minions, which I feel like I can't stand those little tic-tac looking creatures. So having to spend however long it was having to hear their obnoxious voices throughout the entire film really annoyed me, and it didn't even help Sandra Bullock to be in this movie because, I mean, really, she was the only one I could truly understand. For my number 5, it is for Hot Pursuit, or as I would like to dub, Hot Per Shit, which I know a lot of people have been using lately because of it. I did not like this movie, which stars Reese Witherspoon and Sofia Vergara, And you'd think that these two would have, you know, a decent comedy together, but no, it did not work well for them. And I doubt they're ever going to make a movie like this again. If they do, I'll be taking somebody to jail. For my number 4, it is for Vacation. The only one good thing I loved about this movie was hearing Ed Helms sing that Seal song. Everything else was just horrendous, heinous. The jokes were ridiculous, and I just couldn't stand this bastardization of the original Vacation. For my number 3 is for a movie that I actually saw the other previous films to, and it is for The Human Centipede 3 final sequence. Thank God it's the final, because if they make a 4th, I would be so mad about that. And this movie was just terrible. I would definitely say a mouthful about this movie, but you don't want me to go there. For my number 2, it is for Paranormal Activity, The Ghost Dimension. I'm really not surprised that I hated this movie, because they actually died after Paranormal Activity 4. I really don't know why I bothered to watch this. I actually just recently watched this again just to see if my opinion would change, but clearly it didn't. As far as these Paranormal Activity movies go, stick with the first 3. They're much more enjoyable. And for my number 1 of worst films of 2015, it is for Knock Knock. This is another Eli Roth movie, but it's starring Keanu Reeves. And this movie was just downright dumb. Chocolate with sprinkles! Seriously, those 2 girls ain't gonna give you chocolate with sprinkles. You're gonna probably have to put it on them. Never. This movie was just downright horrendous. Keanu Reeves, you could do so much better. Hopefully, this wouldn't ruin his career completely, because John Wick 2 is coming out, and I can't wait to see that. That was my list of top 20 worst films of 2015. I hope 2016 will be better, because I know there's a lot of movies that I'm looking forward to seeing. I hope that my expectations for those are not too high or not too low. But either way, I just hope that next year is going to be so much better as far as movies go. So you guys can check out my best list of 2015. And as always, you guys can subscribe to my channel. I've got movie reviews, movie updates, come back every week for a Child Thursday video. You guys can also like me on Facebook and follow me on Twitter. And I will see you guys later.